When most people think of World War II combat, they picture rifles, tanks, artillery, and aircraft, but tucked inside rucksacks, jacket pockets, and boot tops were the weapons soldiers reached for when things got desperate, when trenches collapsed into chaos, bunkers turned pitch black, and patrols stumbled into enemy lines at arm's length. These close combat tools were often improvised, sometimes illegal, and frequently banned by military regulations and the Geneva Conventions. Yet soldiers carried them anyway. These are the battlefield brawlers, the hidden weapons of World War II that made the difference when the fight got personal. Brass knuckles, the soldier's secret equalizer. Officially banned in several armies due to their brutal potential, brass knuckles remained one of the most common illicit weapons in World War II. Soldiers smuggled them from home, forged them in workshops, or bought them from black market traders at ports and frontline towns. Why they were feared. Brass knuckles concentrate a punch into a narrow band of metal, turning even a small strike into bone-breaking force. In tight trenches, urban ruins, or jungle ambushes, a single knuckle punch could end a fight instantly and silently. Why armies banned them, considered unnecessarily brutal, caused permanent facial fractures and skull damage, difficult to regulate due to improvised variants. Yet despite bans, military police routinely confiscated them from GIs, Tommies, and even Wehrmacht troops. It's kind of wild, but these weapons just kept turning up, no matter the regulations. Trench knives, part dagger, part knuckle duster. The trench knife was a hybrid weapon engineered for carnage, a steel spike or dagger blade attached to a brass knuckle handle. Although they were designed for World War I, huge stockpiles resurfaced in World War II, especially among US paratroopers and engineers. So, yeah, these knives definitely had a second life on the battlefield. The famous M1918 trench knife, stamped with US 1918, it had a triangular punch blade, a brass knuckle grip, and a skull-crushing pommel. Seriously, this was a weapon built for close combat, and it left quite an impression, literally and figuratively. Banned by several military ethic boards due to its, inherently cruel wounds, the trench knife was still issued unofficially to elite units heading into close quarters battle, or CQB. Garrote wires, silent, deadly, and outlawed. A garrote, which is just two handles connected by a thin wire or cord, was honestly one of the most feared assassination tools of the war. So, why were they used? Well, commandos and resistance fighters needed silence, stealth, and, to leave minimal trace. A quick pull around the throat or jawline could incapacitate an enemy without any gunfire or struggle. So, why were garrotes banned? Well, military command actually considered garrotes to be, weapons of assassination, rather than legitimate tools for combat. But despite that, SOE operatives, OSS agents, and partisans in places like Italy, France, and Eastern Europe still relied on them, especially when they needed to slip behind enemy lines. Improvised sap clubs and blackjacks were, honestly, pretty common in every major army. Soldiers would fashion sap clubs from, belts, lead weights, scrap leather, or even just sand-filled socks. These flexible blunt force weapons were actually favored for things like guard duty, handling prisoners, and those risky night raids. The advantages of sap clubs and blackjacks? Well, first, they're silent. They're also easy to conceal, which is super important. On top of that, they're devastating on skulls and joints, and, they're really quick to make from whatever materials happen to be available. Although considered illegal by many military police units, blackjacks remained popular because, honestly, they didn't require strength, only accuracy. Push daggers and, thumb knives. These small T-shaped knives were designed to fit between the fingers or right in the palm, and they started showing up in paratrooper units and among tank crews. Why did tank crews love them? Well, inside a disabled tank filling with smoke, crews needed ultra-compact weapons to fight their way out, or, repel boarding enemies. Push daggers could be slipped into glove compartments, map boxes, and even boot sheaths. The ban. Their wounds were difficult for medics to treat, and their stealth made them favored by saboteurs. Many commanders labeled them dishonorable. The Smatchet, too effective for comfort. The Smatchet was a broad-bladed cleaver-like weapon designed by legendary commando William E. Fairbairn, half machete, half short sword. It was intended for brutal, overwhelming close combat. Why it terrified regulators. The Smatchet's wide blade delivered massive, disabling cuts, while its point allowed lethal thrusts. It could chop through bone, helmets, and even light foliage. Why did Churchill's commandos love it? Well, the Smatchet was excellent for jungle and urban fighting. It actually replaced bayonets in many covert operations, which is kind of impressive. And, honestly, it was just perfect for ambushes. Some countries considered it excessively cruel and even tried to restrict its use, but, it still showed up in the kit bags of elite raiders. Entrenching tool, or E-tool, a shovel-turned killing weapon. It sounds kind of absurd, but one of World War II's deadliest melee weapons wasn't even designed as a weapon at all. The folding entrenching shovel was standard issue to every soldier, and surprisingly it became a fearsome fighting tool. So, why did it work? Well, it was heavy enough to shatter bone, and sharp enough to act as an axe when filed. Plus, it was balanced for swinging in those tight trenches, and it was legal to carry everywhere. German soldiers famously sharpened one side into a crude battle axe. Soviets used it to lethal effect in house-to-house combat from Stalingrad to Berlin. On paper, these weapons were banned because they were, considered inhumane, unethical, or even too brutal. In reality, frontline combat didn't allow for those moral luxuries. When rifles jammed in winter mud, when patrols collided in dense jungle, when bunkers plunged soldiers into darkness, these weapons determined who walked away. They were the tools of desperation, skill, and survival. Even today, most remain restricted or illegal in many countries. And perhaps that is a reminder of the raw, terrifying human side of war, the part not shown in strategy maps or history books.